So before we even hit record, we were already on some heavy hit topics.
Oh yeah.
We, when this airs, it'll be almost about a month afterwards. Um, so the Olympics just happened, right? Just started yesterday. So give everyone like an idea of our timeline when we do this kind of stuff. So it just started yesterday, and one of the things that's been a huge commotion is how they had an intro during the 2024 Olympics with drag queens reenacting the Last Supper. I think one, that's a huge kind of slap to the face of God. And here's another thing. If people don't pay attention, there was actually like a little kid in there too. Which I'm pretty sure there was no little kid in the Last Supper, but in this one, there's a little kid, and it's kind of exactly why we're doing what we're doing.
They're trying to, I said, man, trying to normalize certain things that when it does happen, you're just like, it's just another thing.
Yeah, and if you do it enough times, people start to not pay attention.
Yeah.
People start accepting that as a new norm. But as we posed before we started recording was, when does the new norm draw the line? Where do we draw the line to the new norm in terms of this is way far off? It's not even close to 10x anymore. We're like not even hitting paper at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of men think about that, especially with what we're talking about. We're talking about, restoring manhood, rescuing kids, and rebuilding families. I think we all grew up in that same generation where it was like hard work, all these things. And today, because of the growth of technology, we have AI doing so many things that it used to take us hours to do. Which is, I get the draw of it, I get the good thing of it, but it also promotes almost like a laziness. And you said, what was that? Someone couldn't spell or something?
Yeah. Getting to the point where people can't really think for themselves. They need technology and whatnot to be able to do everyday things that, people in the older days used to be able to do just naturally. Being able to spell simple words, exit, is a cause for concern.
Yeah.
Right? Mm. But I guess with the technological advantages, we have to, kind of seed something. But how much do we want to give up to live differently?
Ooh. Ooh. How much do we want to give up to live differently? Ooh, that's a... Well, that's it for the show. That's seriously. I mean, dude, that's
Homework.
Homework, yeah, that's
That's
homework
it.
right there. How much do you want? Say it one more time.
How much do we want to give up to live differently?
How much do we want to give up to live differently?
Man, but that's so true.
Damn.
Because how much have we given up already to conform to the new norm, the new standard? And it's not a big deal now, but slowly creeping up to the point that too late already.
Damn. We go outside and Brian's got like a Tesla. I ain't willing to give that up. Like, yeah, we should go back to the old days. Like, horse and buggy type of thing.
Dude, if I could, I would. I'm not going to lie.
Would you?
I would.
A Tesla?
No.
Oh.
The horse and buggy.
Oh.
Nah, horse and buggy, man. Nah, just a simple way of living, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back to a flip phone. I feel like,
Really?
yeah.
Even with all the things you could do on your phone right now, you would still go back to flip phone.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Social media's a time suck.
Yeah.
It is. I'll say that, yeah.
And I see it more and more that it's like I caught myself on Sunday. I was on the phone the whole damn day.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, granted, there wasn't watching just nonsense. Like you would watch a whatever Christian show, whatever, you read the Bible, but mostly, like, if you put it in perspective, most of the time it was just nonsense. Like, videos like, ha ha ha, woo, and it's like, there goes, it's 9 o'clock, 9 p.m.
Exactly.
I'm like, what?
Exactly. And you think about it, before the TV was actually introduced, what were people doing? Just like working all day.
Conversations,
Yeah,
And
they
socializing.
were
real
actually
conversations.
having conversations with their
What?
families and whatnot. And that's when everybody was a little bit closer, right? The neighbor, you knew about your neighbors.
Yeah.
You actually cared about your neighbors, so on and
Dude,
so
that's so
forth.
true.
But now you look outside and kids are barely outside.
Yeah, that is
The
true.
playground used to be full of people, and now you go over there and it's like a ghost town, to the point where it's like, why even have playgrounds?
Mm.
You know?
I remember growing up, like we used to play like football and
Yeah,
street hockey with
exactly,
my neighbors and stuff. We would line out the driveway with garbage cans and kind of
exactly.
have that and rollerblades.
Yeah,
And like I don't see that anymore
no,
at all.
because everybody's inside gaming and whatnot. Nothing against it. I game sometimes as well, but you just notice like what it's really taken away from people, right? The connectedness. It doesn't exist anymore outside of the places where you're forced to be, integrated with people.
Mm.
So
I think. Oh, sorry to cut you off. I think like what the underlying thing is like technology can be great. Technological advances in medicine and
Yeah.
that's all cool stuff, right?
Mhm.
But there's a sense of comfort that it creates, and that comfort is really well. We've talked about a couple, episodes ago. Comfort kills.
Mhm.
When you get too comfortable, you forget how to spell simple words like exit.
Mhm.
When you get too comfortable, you forget how to think for yourself, and you put something into ChatGPT, and it creates the whatever text that you're looking for.
You forget how to defend yourself.
Yeah,
That I think self defense is like you can't automate that.
yeah,
You have to be an active participant in your physical protection.
Not only
Yeah.
physical, but like, the Bible calls it like we're at war with principalities, man, with the rulers of, the darkness, the dark forces, all of that. Like, when you don't, it just, everything becomes normal. Everything becomes like, well, I'm just going with the flow.
Mm.
Everybody else is doing it, so why not me? Why am I going to be the one to stand out?
Well, that's legit.
Like Ryan was saying, man, it's like, it's just, you used to know your neighbors, which is so true. I mean, I'm not saying that barbecues don't happen or whatever. But when was the last time, like, literally, like, legit? Like, let's get together, bro. Let's just do a cookout.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even with us, right? Like, I mean, everybody's so busy
Mm-hmm.
that, I love what we started doing. Like, okay, if we don't do this, let's do something else.
Mm.
Let's engage.
Mhm.
I feel like that's how you keep yourselves accountable and connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. But how do you go back to, that old style mentality, if you will, where you can be a little bit more connected? I know that having like the one-off events and whatnot, like, hey, every other weekend,
Mhm.
Yeah.
let's do something. Because I know for me personally, if I'm yearning for a deeper conversation and I can't have that at home, I'll go to a bar.
Mm.
I'll sit at the bar, and for whatever reason, somebody always comes up and they start talking to me. I can
Really?
just be watching a football game, basketball game, soccer, whatever is on, and somebody will, just randomly spark up a conversation, and then we'll spiral into, a deep conversation, and we'll be sitting there for like 5 hours. Like, how the hell was I sitting here for this long? With
My
with
beer
a
is warm.
complete stranger.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody is really in that situation, where they're looking for something with a deeper meaning as opposed to, what it is that they get on a regular basis. Um, so they seek out people that are looking for the same thing in those same scenarios,
Yeah.
and so on. So what is it that you all do?
First off, I think Brian's like you guys know Michael J. White,
Mm-hmm.
the that's totally Brian. He's like just chilling at the bar, just like waiting to school some kid that like teach him some wisdom. You know what I mean? Oh, hey, buddy, come over here, sit right here, sit right here. Let me-
You're right on time.
right on. Oh man, yeah. talking about this now, I realize how heavily reliant I am on technology. And I mean the work I personally do. I mean, outside the podcast. I mean, look at all the stuff we have being able to record all this.
Exactly.
This is all, giving us the ability to take this message into other countries. I mean, we're like all over the world because of
Technology.
this technology. So that's a good thing. And the bad thing is like what you're saying is like, okay, I'm gonna go to I'm gonna go to a place where I can make a real open face-to-face connection. I think that's part of why. I think deep inside that's what I'm yearning as well. That's why we made the switch on the podcast. I'm like, okay, if we record instead of every week, like you've been here, like we used to do it every week, and then we're like, okay, you had to go back to school. We had to change a couple things. Fredo had to, go back to work. Okay, we'll switch up a couple things. Now let's do it, every other week, and let's open up some more opportunities to actually get together. No, none of this recording, no tech, and just engage. And I think deep inside that is something I'm yearning. So for me, I try to do less of what I'm already doing and do the opposite. So because I'm kind of used to like a higher speed, I'm always like my mind is always thinking. I need to do things that slow me down, like meditation. One that's really been helping is listening to worship music, even in the car, and that kind of helps me reset. And actually, you know what? Even above all that, like getting up early has been a huge positive for me. Not just because we're getting up and running in the morning, but even before that, the prep to that is actually something I really cherish, and I kind of get upset when I don't have it in the morning because I'm like, I need this way. I need to start my days like this, where it's quiet. I wake up and Lana's sleeping, Carlene's sleeping, and the house is quiet and everything's just like it's at peace. I leave the house, it's still dark, and it's just me and I feel like me and my own thoughts, me conversing with God and giving myself an opportunity to listen, because there's no other distraction, there's no other thing pulling at my attention or demanding my time, and it's just me just being at the moment where my 2 feet are at. I think for me that's how I kind of reconnect.
No, I mean, I think you said it best. I deal a lot with people day in and day out, so it's constant like
I'm too
chaos.
connected.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, because of the job, it's just people pleasing. You just
Exactly.
gotta shut up and take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to what you were saying, for me, it's like I have to retrieve to like the quiet place, the wilderness, if I can, or just be somewhere, but be there in that moment, because I feel like everything around is so chaotic
Yeah.
that when I'm away, I could actually engage and connect with God.
Exactly.
And not that I don't hear Him on a daily day, because obviously the conversations that I have with Angelo, with David, what we had going to lunch and everything like that, it's just God is always speaking.
Exactly.
But when it's so much chaos around you, it's hard to listen. It's like you hear it, but you don't hear it loud enough, because sometimes I can't control the volume of everything else.
Absolutely.
So that's why for me I yearn for that. Those moments when, just driving here, just put on the Bible app and just like, hit play and just I'm like, ooh, that makes sense.
Exactly.
And just like fill me up. And this is all, not to toot your own horn, but this is all thanks to Angelo. He's just like, man, try to engage with God first. And I'm like, right away the thought came to my head. I'm like, He's given us everything best, meaning health, everything. We're still here. He woke us up. He never forget. I feel like His first fruits, His best fruits are towards us every single day. And it's like, why can I reciprocate that and give Him my best? And I feel like my best is in the morning before I start and get all chaotic and
Yeah.
everything like that. And it's hard when you're in a season where you feel that God has forgotten about you, that you're sick, that this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be the most beautiful thing in a sense that God still gives you time to maybe, cherish or I guess amend those relationships that are broken.
Mm.
It's still giving you time to, I guess, make peace with everything. But it's all the angles that we look at. Because when you look at it, it's like, well, God is just punishing me.
Hmm.
I mean, it's clearly in the Bible that before we have His wrath, we have His love.
Ooh.
Let's see. I'm overjoyed that you had brought up the seasons again, right? Because every time that you feel like you're going through one of those moments where it's like, I've been forgotten,
Mm.
I think about how Moses has went through his 40 years in the desert. You know what I mean? And what was it that he learned while he was out there that he wouldn't have learned if he had, just went straight to where he was supposed
Yeah.
to, right? So all those life experiences that happened during that 40 years led him to be able to be the person that he was supposed to be when he got to where he was supposed to be.
Mm.
So without going through those, dry periods where it's like, man, I'm not hearing from God. I feel like I'm, extremely disconnected and so on. How do you truly grow closer?
Mm.
Because when everything is good, I don't know about for you guys. When everything is good, it's a little bit easier for me to go without a prayer, right? But as soon
Yeah.
as things turn bad, it's like, oh, God, please
Remember me?
Yeah, exactly. you know. Um, but ironically, in those bad times is when I hear the most from God, right? Because I know that I'm leaning more on Him, as opposed to when the things are good and I can do this on my own. And then when things don't go my way, oh, man, that sucks. Let me see
get
how
that.
exactly I can go about fixing this.
I get that. I
And
get that.
just that wording right there, it happens in my mind too. How can I go about fixing it?
Right.
As opposed to leaning more on God to go about providing the provisions and whatnot that we know that He does. We think that at times we're the Lord and Savior of our own lives.
Mm.
We don't give God enough credit for everything that He's doing, has done, and will do. Where you put God into this box, like God can only go about providing me the things that other people say that He has provided for them. But we forget that God is a God of miracles at the same time, right? And so up until we start to recognize that God, took away the leprosy, stopped the woman from bleeding after all those years, it healed the blind, so on and so forth. We're going to be stuck in that same mentality of the person that, what do I need to do to, achieve, heavenly status? You have to give up all your things. It's like, oh, I'm conflicted. I have so much.
Mm.
We're always going to be in that mentality up until we are able to, let go of those things.
Man, that's wow. But that's the same question that Jesus is asking us every single day.
Mm-hmm.
The same question that He asked the rich boy.
Yeah.
Go sell everything, pick up the cross, and follow me.
Mm.
Well, what can we give up today to be able to lift up that cross? Because we carrying something.
Mm-hmm.
Are we carrying the cross or are we carrying something else?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
See, and that's the thing, because if you think about with the cross, how heavy the cross would have been back
Dude, I
then.
was just thinking
right?
about that.
There's
Just thinking.
a big block of wood. You think about like how heavy that is, and Jesus was saying, put down all this stuff. Carry my yoke. My yoke is light.
Hmm.
So He's already tilling the fields with you and such, but He's saying, you carry my burdens. You won't have to carry anything really. I already have all this stuff on me. But the way that we go about everyday life is that, we're still having to do all these things that, Jesus had died for, right? We're still having to sacrifice, our time and efforts and such in order to grow closer to God, even though that wasn't necessarily what Jesus had died for. He died, to make us pure again, to get us back connected to, the spirituality and such. But we're going out and we're living the complete opposite. I still have to go about sacrificing, these animals and such to go about purifying myself for everything that I've done. It's like, no, absolutely not. That's why Jesus' blood was shed. Now we're clean. It's interesting, man.
That idea of it's just the exact thing you said earlier. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up to carry this heavy cross? Or light, his yoke.
Yeah.
But what are you willing? I mean, if we go back to that example of the rich guy, he obviously wasn't willing to give up his funds to follow Jesus.
But think about Jesus, though. What did he give up for us?
Exactly.
When you look at Revelation, and John just saw the throne of God, the glory that came out of the throne, that filled the whole assembly, whatever room or whatever he was able to see. Like, think about all that glory, or the creatures that were praising God day in and day out.
Yeah.
He left that,
Mm-hmm.
and he came into this messed up world for me and you. That one day we can actually receive that direct path back to the Father, that forgiveness. And when we get up to heaven, it's like, on what merit are you here? It's like solely on just the blood of Jesus. Ain't nothing I can do to obtain that.
I think that's one of the hardest things for people to accept, especially if especially entrepreneurs and people who have come up like through this idea of, oh, I made it myself, like I'm self-made. That you don't have to do anything to get to heaven, really. Like, I'm like, well, technically no. Like, it's not. You don't go to heaven by the works or by your deeds. And when you say that to someone, like I had a conversation with my buddy who's a very successful entrepreneur, and he was like, I don't get that. What do you mean you don't have to?
It doesn't register because they're used to having to put in all this effort.
Yeah,
in
like
there.
to them, it's like I have to give A, B, C so I can get X, Y, Z. What do you mean I don't have to give anything up? And I'm like, yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
But when you understand that you have a God that loves you that much, you just have to accept him.
Yeah.
There's things that will change in you,
100%.
right? But you can do all these great things in the world, still not be ready to go to heaven.
Exactly. I think that we have to go through those time periods where, we have to wrestle with God on the things that we're, I don't want to say unwilling, but we have a hard time giving up, right? So technology, for example, I just said technology is making us stupid, right? Like, as we already said. But it's a distraction, not only from, everyday life, but from us focusing on God as well. There are the things that, are put out there that are biblical, they go with whatever faith it is that you're looking at, right? But you're not necessarily hearing the word of God the same way that you would if you put everything down. As you all stated earlier, when you're out and about and, you're just observing God's creation, you can hear God a lot better, So I go fishing, and I'll just sit out there and, try to be by myself, and then I start hearing people's voices and such. It's like, well, why is this always happening? And then, when I'm sitting down and I'm reading my Bible, the same thing will happen. Like, all these thoughts start rushing through. Like, man, you forgot to do this. And it's like, and to just focus on, what it is that you're doing right now. But all that external noise comes in, and it removes me from being in that moment. So, seeking out the opportunity to go about being around people that are like-minded, having that time to be by yourself, to, truly study what it is that you say that you believe in. And then actually trying to live out what it is that you say that you believe in. It's completely different, in theory or in practice than it is in theory.
Right. I think what we're all getting at is we're seeking true connection. True connection. Because your example of going to the bar and let's look for a connection here, right? Maybe something I'm not experiencing on a daily basis. Just like, not that you're not getting a real or true connection with your wife and kids, but there's something like a deeper thing you're looking to quench. With you, you're overly connected, and you're looking for like, okay, let's look for something deeper. And then for me, I'm like more in like that tech stuff, and the editing and the emails and all that. I'm like, I'm looking for some face to face type connection. So I think we're all saying the same things, that we want that deeper connection. And when we don't have that, and when we stay distracted, stuff like that, what happened in the Olympics is that's just the beginning.
Exactly.
Where we're getting further and further from where we're supposed to be because we're not connected to the truth anymore. A mentor once told me, he's like, the truth is simple, but lies are complicated. And I'm not saying I speak for you guys here because I'm like trying to say not to get canceled. I'm like, how do I not?
Yeah.
But the reality is this, how do you, what is it? What's the verbiage they use? Like, how do you see yourself? What is it? Like, how do the people say it nowadays? Like, I'm a he, she, like.
The pronouns and whatnot.
Yeah, the pronouns.
What's your
like,
pronouns?
Yeah, what your pronouns are. Like, how do you identify? Like, dude, it's so complicated. It is so complicated. I'm a guy that's dressed up like that, turned into a woman, but I still like women. But sometimes I also like guys. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
that's complicated.
Exactly.
That's not truth.
Exactly.
That's so true, though. That is so true.
I'm a guy that is a woman, but I dress up like a guy now, and you know what I mean? It just
makes you want to
I'm
say,
like, what? Like, I really don't get it. And if I don't get it, if us as grown men don't understand that, how much more for kids who don't understand the world? And they're going to come up into this and they're going to think, oh, that's right. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And
all you want to say sometimes is just, man, get back to me when you're not confused anymore.
yeah.
Let me know what you
Yeah.
what you go with, so I
Yeah.
can. It's frustrating and it's hard, but I feel like at the same time, you touched on it. I feel like we're so busy that it's like, man, I don't have time for it right now. I'll get to it when I get this done. But
When the problem gets too real.
Yeah.
yeah, that. But I'm saying, like, by the time you finish yours, you come to your conclusion that it's already a big deal, that you can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
You could have.
Oh yeah.
You could have if you would have just stopped.
Yep. And paid attention.
And
for
paid-
it, man. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I also want to add this. I understand, and I tread carefully. I'm retired, so it's not I don't have to worry necessarily about a career, right? I just got to worry about like the brand or the business or whatever. I really don't care. At this point in my life, like there's a different direction that I'm leading to, and I'm like, hey, I'm okay. I told you guys about that dream, like burn everything down, and I've kind of just went all in that. But I understand not everyone is in that same boat. So there's careers we have to worry about. There's decisions we have to think about. Like, hey, when I say this and I stand for this, am I ready to kind of bear the burden that's going to come with?
Exactly.
The consequences, the repercussions that's going to come with. And I think that's one of the things that, okay, what are we really willing to give up? No, I'm not saying, go and give up your career and do that. Because I think if God leads you to that point, you'll know clearly when it's that time in your life. But if not, I'm like, don't make a bad decision and put all this on the line. I don't want to say a bad decision, but don't make that decision and put it all on the line and now put how you're going to feed your family at risk without really, unless God really told you that. And I urge you guys to pray about it and seek, wise counsel about it, because that's not an easy decision to make. Because I get it. Like, would I be saying this if I was still a police officer? I don't think I would have, to be straight up.
Nah, because you can't. It's like a self-preservation thing at that point.
Right. Like, you'd be like, I know I should,
Yeah.
But it's like you think about, hey, am I willing? What am I willing to give up? Am I willing to give that up?
Dude, and I guess that's the thing, right?
Ooh,
So
damn.
in modern culture and such, in dang near every business, you end up having, all of these groups that are supposed to be, inclusive to whatever it is that people are experiencing, being African American, Latino, Asian, homosexual, so on and so forth, the whole gambit. You have all of these groups in businesses just to make sure that everybody feels heard, essentially. And you can't go about really voicing what your personal opinion is. You end up having to go along with whatever it is that the culture is for that
The
company.
majority,
Yeah,
right?
So in that, you're really trying not to go about getting canceled,
Yeah.
right? And if that's your constant fear, you're going to go along with it. But why should we have to do that?
Ooh.
It's not fun at that point where you have to go about putting on this mask. I can't be my true self. You know, Eh, to be honest with you, I could care less about the person that's racist or otherwise. Those are your actions. You do what you do, as long as they don't come onto my doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I don't care about that kind of stuff. But as soon as it does start to intrude on your personal life or on somebody else's life, that's when we have to start truly evaluating. Like, is this right?
Mm.
Right. So the homosexuality and whatnot, what people do behind their bedroom doors or whatever, it's like I could care less about that.
Mm-hmm.
Live your life. You're going to end up having to deal with it. But as soon as it's starting to be pushed onto the majority of people, as this is what we need to be observing. Is that right?
That that is so. Yeah, that's on the money.
Yeah.
That's on the money.
Well,
Because yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna just say like they say at the beginning, right? They said, "Oh, my opinion should matter,"
Mm-hmm.
and all of this. That's like okay, now you have a voice,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became that my opinion doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly.
Oh.
So it's like if
Mm.
I tell you we can't have a conversation. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what's happening nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't agree with you, I'm your worst enemy.
Mm.
And it's like no, like I hear where you're coming from, but hear where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We can agree to disagree. We could still be friends afterwards.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that we're gonna agree on every topic.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how you think differently, I think differently.
Mm-hmm.
But change my mind.
Exactly.
If you really truly believe that and you have all the facts,
Mhm.
but come with me, facts, not just some delusional idea that you just woke up and you had a dream about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like support it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was taught wrong or I think differently or whatever, okay. At the end of the day, maybe we can shake hands and be like, okay,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we took that safe common ground out the way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Either I'm right or you're right. Yeah.
Mm.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
But in all actuality, they're always right
Exactly.
and we're always wrong.
Exactly.
So then how can the minute you don't like something, it's like I handed you a grenade.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Damn.
And I hate to sound like judgmental or whatever, but I try to avoid conversation with quote unquote stupid people. Right? The people that are unwilling to go about listening to somebody else's opinion.
That's not judgmental. That's facts.
I try to avoid those kind of situations because it's a waste of your time to try to go about having a conversation with somebody that's so dug into a hole in their own beliefs that they're unable to go about seeing what it is that somebody else
Right.
believes in. So I listen to people that are contrarians to whatever it is that I might believe in, and then, okay, I understand where it is that you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe that, but I can understand
Yeah.
how that
I
might
can see where you're
impact
coming
you,
from, type of thing, right?
you know?
Yeah.
And up until you're open to having those kind of conversations and such, it might not even sway your opinion at all, but being able to listen to somebody that is contrary to whatever it is that you believe in, I believe that it's key, right? Because that's how we
I
end up
agree.
interacting as human beings and such,
I agree.
and that's how we came to all these technological advances.
Right.
People across the world have not been doing things the way that everybody else did it,
Mm.
fishing and all that other craziness. It came up by different cultures coming together and just exhibiting what it is that they believed in. but we've taken all that off the table, and I feel like that's how the United States is becoming stupid. We're this melting pot, but we're so focused on ourselves, and not listening to whatever else is going on across the world.
Yeah. Look, look at like the ripple effects
Yeah,
of our decisions.
yeah,
Like couple maybe weeks or months ago, I don't remember. We were talking about it, and I think you had mentioned that, or maybe it was Alfredo that mentioned it, that a bunch of countries are like laughing at us now. Or they're like, yeah, like you guys used to be the epitome of like the standard.
yeah,
Not anymore. Like,
exactly,
you see what happened to this country? They're
exactly,
like, yeah, we're not following you guys anymore.
exactly.
It's like,
Our education system like took a dive. We're like 75th or something like that in the world right now.
that is wild, dude.
You know.
That is so wild.
Yeah, people still want to come and work here, just because the
Right.
money actually.
Oh, I'm not trying
means
to learn
something.
over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to
wanna
get some. I'm
earn.
trying to
Yeah,
make some money.
exactly.
I just want to earn. Yeah, I just want to earn. Ain't no trying to
Exactly.
learn out there.
You know.
75th out of the 70 countries. We're 75th.
That would be
Right, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
We look at the difference in how kids are growing up here. They ask kids growing up here, like, oh, what do you want to be? I want to be a social media influencer. I want to be a TikTok star. I want to be YouTube famous.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask kids from China what they want to be. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So much more prestige and structure and trying to give back and further the economy.
Yeah.
Not saying that YouTube and TikTokers like aren't giving back, but it's a different in standard,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
And that is personally what you were saying earlier. I was the exact same way. We're like, hey, you do that in your personal time, doesn't affect me, no problem.
Yeah.
But now you're saying that I'm wrong because I don't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem. Like, yeah, it's not affecting my daughter yet because she doesn't understand just yet, but it will.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm keeping it at bay, if not pushing that thing all the way back, because when she grows up and then she's exposed to that, what am I going to say? Like, oh, I couldn't do anything, or I couldn't help her, but and if that's where God's path takes her, and takes her like, on another way that I can't, like that's up to her and God. Like, I can't do anything about it at that point. But I know, I will know that I did everything that I could.
Yeah.
Prior to that,
Yeah.
to set her up, set my kids up or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of men have that same intensity where it's like, oh well, she did it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, they're learning this at school.
No.
Oh well, it's too late now. It's like, dude, you gave up.
Exactly. And I think that's become more commonplace, right? The masculinity in the world. Well, there's a lot more femininity.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. But the masculinity in the world is definitely decreasing.
100%.
It's almost negative to go about showing like manly attributes and such.
It is.
But I have conversations with my wife about this kind of stuff all the time, right? Because she's very inclusive, which I don't necessarily have a problem with up until it's one of those things where, hey, I believe that everybody does have rights, God-given rights, so on and so forth. You can love whoever it is that you choose to love, right? But I'm not gonna have to answer for that kind of stuff. But after it does, cross, into my threshold and whatnot, now I have issues with it, because it's not something that I want to go about portraying. And really, you think about it, your kids are going to be carrying your last name up until, they go about getting together with somebody that could go about changing him. Or, if you have a son, they're going to be carrying your last name for, however long, unless they, take on somebody else's last name for whatever reason.
Unless culture tells them it's better to do that.
But
Like, you can do that? What?
yeah, they're going to be a representative of everything that you believed in, or everything that your forefathers believed in. So that generation that people are being exposed to is the only idea of your family that they're ever going to end up having. So I know my mom, she used to tell me, hey, when we get out in public, don't act stupid. And there was a reason why. You're representing me. You're representing, everything that came before you. And you took, that opportunity to go about showing, your stupid side as opposed to who it is that you really are. Now people are
Ooh.
going to end up having that idea of you. So, in interacting with the world now, I tell my wife it's okay to be inclusive or whatever. You don't want anybody, succumbing to harm and whatnot just because of their personal beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, you end up having to know what it is that you believe in. That way, when something happens that you don't necessarily support or otherwise, you have the intestinal fortitude to go about standing up against it.
Mm.
And I think that that's what we're lacking. Everybody's trying to be so inclusive
Yeah.
that we forget what it is that we truly believe in. And we're just going along with what it is that the world is saying.
Yeah.
Calling
Yeah. Yeah.
the wolves in sheep's clothing,
Mm.
good, as opposed to calling it what it is, evil,
Yeah.
Mm.
right?
I feel like there's no more respect
Mm-hmm.
because it's like you don't have to accept my lifestyle, and I don't have to accept yours,
Mm-hmm.
but we could still respect each other.
Exactly.
Like I respect that
beautiful.
that's your way or you view it. It's like I had a conversation. One of our good friends. He's gay. And I shared the talk about the faith and everything like that. And again, to my surprise, I thought like for sure he's gonna be like give me the middle finger and be like, okay, just go with your God and I'll go mine.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it was a sense of like respect from both sides that he was like, man, I know you talk about God all the time. He was like, I was actually waiting for you to actually we can have this conversation.
Mm.
And he was like, it's not like I didn't try to, you know, have a relationship with women and whatnot, and it's just it doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, bro, I respect you.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that I accept it. You don't have to accept the way, I guess standard, right? Man, woman, get together, marriage, whatever. You don't have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But we could be respectful enough
Mm-hmm.
that we live in harmony,
Exactly.
that we live in peace,
Mm.
that I accept, like I accept you for who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I respect you. I don't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't accept your lifestyle just because I don't agree with that lifestyle. That doesn't mean that I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
In all actuality, I love you.
Exactly.
And I wish and I pray that God will soften your heart,
Mm-hmm.
that if it's in His will, your view will change and you'll start seeing the biblical truth, not from me, but from God directly.
Mm.
The world that He created, and He created sacred, and He created, this beautiful, everything was in perfect balance
Mm-hmm.
until the law came in.
Exactly.
When law came in, sin came in.
Exactly.
Mm.
Oh man.
Damn, that was well said.
So,
Well said.
and you saying that you still love the person,
Of
and
course.
your friend was, just waiting for the conversation.
And we still talk till this day.
Exactly. So you end up
So,
encountering a lot of people, that might have, a contrary lifestyle to whatever it is that you live. And then they have this idea that Christianity, is just a hateful, type deal where they're never going to accept me because of the way that I live. And if you look at what Jesus was doing, that's like dang near the contrary, right? Because Jesus was going into all these places where, people were sinning.
yeah.
You don't need a doctor unless you're sick.
Hmm.
And so, Jesus was, going into all these places that people, why is he hanging around with, these heathens, the tax collectors?
Yeah. Yeah.
How
You
dare
know?
he?
But he was going in all those places. And I think that that's what we're called to as well. And right now, people aren't, well, I can't say everyone, but not everyone is open to the conversation piece of, hey, even though you might not be living the way that I do, Jesus still loves you, right?
100%.
And it says that there's no sin that can't be overcome, right? If you accept Jesus, so on and so forth, you'll be able to see the kingdom of heaven,
Yeah.
And I think that modern day society has twisted it so much to where, just because you're black and I'm white, type deal, there's no way that you're getting into heaven, big dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're white. Yeah, you're not getting it. Only black people get into heaven.
He's like, oh, sorry, the white entrance is over there.
Yeah.
Oh, brown. Oh, we gotta.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Hey, yo, Peter. Hey, yo, Peter, where the brown guys go? Where the brown guys
That's
go?
because I was just gonna say, yo, Peter, where you at? Like, you gotta.
You know.
Peter, we got another guy that thinks he got it to heaven. Where's that pamphlet we go? Where's that?
But look at every story in the Bible when people
Man.
come to Christ, right? Or when Christ has an encounter with them. Did he ever judge them?
No.
Yeah.
Even the woman that was caught in adultery.
Yeah.
It's like, where are your accusers, woman?
Yeah.
Well, there's nobody left.
Exactly.
Like, neither do I.
Exactly.
But go forward and sin no more.
Exactly.
I'm like, dude, like, we're not called. I mean, yes, we're called to judge, yes, but I feel like we're called to judge people that are our brothers, meaning like the church people. Like, excuse my language, but I gotta call you out on your shit.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, that is my responsibility as your brother to guide you, you know? Because if I'm failing at something, it's your responsibility too to be like, yo, you're messing up.
Exactly.
Because we have that true connection. Like we've have that already established. Now, if it's to you and like a random person, you don't have that. So
Exactly.
it's harder. You can't judge them because you don't. You know what I mean?
You can't like do it like how we would do it. Like,
Exactly.
if somebody from the outside would hear it, but like, man, that's harsh.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's what we need.
Yeah.
As men, like maybe like we don't function like when it's like, oh, you know, little precious baby.
Exactly.
You know, what you doing? No, like boom, like
Yeah.
yo,
Yeah.
wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, with some other people, it's just you have to portray like how Jesus was.
Yeah.
Very soft spoken, all of that.
Yeah.
But look at it. He got the moment when he entered the temple, and dude, he was flipping tables.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it comes again. Those
Exactly.
seasons. Sometimes you gotta be quiet and soft spoken. Sometimes you gotta flip them tables up.
Exactly.
I think that's exactly what it is, right? Where in the beginning, maybe if you don't know someone, or we like to talk about, it's a leadership principle, but really it's a life principle. If you haven't made enough deposits into somebody, you can't make that withdrawal. Like unless we've made enough deposits into each other through conversation,
Yeah.
through hanging out, through working out, through that shared suffering or whatever. If we haven't made that, there's no bounds for me to, hey Brian, I got to talk to you about something, bro. You really dropped the ball on this,
Yeah.
right? Or like, hey Chip, dude, you can't be doing that, bro. Right? Can't do that. Can't go to a random Joe in the street and just be like, hey, bro. Yeah, you can't.
What are you doing?
First of all, it's illegal. First of all, assault. That's called assault, buddy.
Wally Wally's. I'm going to jail.
but that's what I'm saying though. Like we have this connection where we have like, hey, the good times, but then there's also times where we have to have the harder conversations, and that's because there's a mutual understanding and respect with each other. Like, and that you said it, respect. If I don't respect you, I'm not gonna let you pour into me. If I don't respect who you are and what you do, like let's just be real. Like I don't want none of that coming into what I got going on.
Yeah.
So if you have that mutual respect and you have that understanding with each other, then you really got to call them out. You have this responsibility to judge.
Yeah.
And that's when you have that grounds to. But for people who don't look like us or don't sound like us or don't believe like us, that you have to kind of approach it with more understanding, not judging, but understanding.
Correct.
See it where they came from.
Yep.
See how maybe they tried Christianity or they went to a church and they got judged for it, and because they look or sound different, and now it's like, oh man, yeah, these folks aren't it, and that it's the same thing, man. Like, don't let one experience judge the whole crowd, judge the entirety of what it is.
Well, how can you love somebody if you don't respect them?
Oh,
It's not real love.
No, because it's like,
I'm searching for that real love.
I feel like that's what it comes down to. Because when you respect somebody, you care for that person. Because it's like you look at them with a different set of eyes. When you look at somebody with respect, it's like, man, like, You love what they do. You love what they stand for.
Yep.
You cherish that. You want to be around that. In order for you to, uh, like fall in love with the author of the Bible, which is God, you have to respect what the rules or the commandments that he implemented from the beginning.
Mm.
If you can't, you only not only do you have to respect it, but you also have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept it and become a lifestyle for yourself.
Mm.
And I just feel like a lot of times it's just misinterpreted,
Mm.
and people run with an idea, and then that's what I say. I feel like when we're talking about technology, it could be a beautiful thing, but it could also be a downfall for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that, oh, this is what I read in the Bible, and it's like, well, what did it say a few chapters before that?
Mm-hmm.
You just got stuck on that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like, when I read the Old Testament, it's like everybody was crying, oh, in the Old Testament, God was like just angry and at war and vengeful. It's like, no, people were praying to be liberated from captivity,
Mm.
to like be the true God and all of that. And it's like, and then he went about to destroy the people that were sacrificing their children.
Mm-hmm.
They said that when they were sacrificing their children, the drummers were playing so loud so they cannot hear the children screaming. That's how
Damn.
loud it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Damn.
like, so God is doing something about it, and then you call him that he's an angry, not just God.
Yeah.
But when he stood for something,
Yeah.
so it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't get the whole story.
Yeah.
They just get the beginning.
Damn.
Yeah.
And it's like, then they run with it. It's like, why would I want to deal with a God like that? Well, he's just in everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Bro, that story, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
About the drums.
Mm-hmm.
You know that?
Yeah.
I did not know that until you said it. It literally, like, raised my heart rate. Looking at my watch, like, it raised my heart rate, bro.
Look at it.
Like that, I'm like,
The
God.
chronicle, especially like in the chronicles when they talk about the kings and everything like that, and they say, this guy did what's right in the sight of God. Then,
Yeah,
two,
yeah, yeah.
three people after him, kings, they did evil, and not only that, they took up the god, the Baals and whatnot,
Yeah.
and sacrificing. He was like, the king sacrificed his own children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah. Man.
So it's all perspective, man. It's all not only perspective, but facts.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want that, and even though it's in front of them,
Exactly.
it's like, nah, because it rubs something inside of me that it's not. It just brings it to light, and I don't want that. I like to keep it in darkness.
Absolutely.
And you said it. You said it best when you were like, Christianity is the only religion that calls people to change.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't accept you as you are. It accepts you as you come,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't let you stay that way.
Exactly.
And and change is the hurt. Change is part of a season. Change is a season.
Mm-hmm.
And we mentioned it early on this show where we're like, there are seasons, and sometimes you are in an extended season because you haven't learned what you needed to learn in that season to transition into the next season.
Mm.
Because how many people do we know? And I'm sure we each know a handful. I know there's a very specific person that popped into my head right now.
Sorry, I'm trying.
Sorry, man. Okay. It's funny. That it just feels like they are just extended, like they're just in winter forever. Like it's been years for this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like they're not changing or it's just not getting better. And at that point, they're probably, man, God, what the heck, man? Why am I still in here? But really, it's like, dude, take a look at yourself. You haven't done anything.
Exactly.
You're still, if you are dealing with the same problems you had last year, did you really change? But if your problems are growing, I think that's indicative of change, right? When we're growing and we have bigger and better problems,
Absolutely.
that's what you want.
Exactly.
So if you can look at, hey, am I still struggling with this last year, the year before that, then maybe there's something in this extended season that you need to learn from before you go into the next.
Absolutely.
Because if not, you may not be. If you go into the next season without the tool that you need to be successful in the next season, you're gonna screw it up.
Exactly.
Like it's like you're not ready for that.
Mm, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But not only that, but like look at winter, right? Winter can be a beautiful thing, like the season, as long as you got the right gear on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So it's like so many times it's like I feel that every season is needed, especially in the Christian life.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
But it's different when you go through that season and you're equipped with the right tools, right gear, to withstand the cold and whatnot. So it could be, yeah, it could still be hard, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be a lot more manageable or tolerable when you have, that Goose Island jacket on that
Yeah.
you don't really feel the cold.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's how it is with God too. Like he tries to code us and put all these things. It's kind of like everything is on the table. Are you willing to grab for it?
Mm.
But sometimes the chair is too comfy for me to lean forward.
Mm.
I'm so far back laid in that it's gonna take something. It's gonna take an action from me to
Exactly.
reach for that.
Mm.
But I'm waiting for like God Himself to come down and just put that on me. When in all actuality, that's not gonna happen.
Exactly. See that? So that when you were saying that, I started thinking about that story about the I think they were Hebrew boys, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and
Yeah.
Abednego,
Yep.
where they were getting ready to get tossed into the furnace. In the event that they didn't go along with whatever the king was saying. The king was saying, "Hey, we don't want you praying, to this God. We want you praying to our God." Type deal. So people were doing like the whole gold statue and whatnot. But these boys, they were being public with their faith. Like they were sitting in their window, like praying, in the fashion that, that faith was, praying back in the day. People would spot them. And of course, you had the snitches that would go, "Hey, you have these people that are praying, wide open. What are they doing?" But they wouldn't. They told on these boys, and the boys were brought in front of the king. They said, "Hey, if you don't go about praying to this God, we're going to kill you," type deal. Um, Ended up catching a little bit of favor or whatever, and then it's like, okay, how about you guys eat this food and you'll be good. You'll be able to work, just as well as all these other people. No, we don't want to eat that food. Just give us fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables. I mean, okay, if you give us these fruits, I promise you we'll be able to work, just as good, if not harder, than the people that you're, giving all this meat and whatnot to. Same thing. A couple things happen. Now they're being, persecuted and tossed into the furnace. The boys say, we believe that our God is going to be able to save us, but even if He doesn't, we'll never worship the gods that you worship. So that public expression of faith, right? It ended up, bringing that fourth person into the fire when there was only supposed to be three. So in the event that you don't go about expressing that you do have that faith in what it is that you truly believe in, is that fourth person actually going to end up standing up for you?
But think about the story too, though, right? Because they said that they bound them and threw them in. And then they said when they came out, it's not even their clothes smelled like smoke.
Yeah.
But what happened to the chains?
Loose. Yeah.
How come just that burned, but not
Their clothes.
their physical body or their clothes
Anything.
or anything like that? So sometimes I feel like society chains you up, and then Christ brings the fire.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Dude. And in that, they turned up the heat
Yes.
like 2 or 3 times hotter than what they usually would.
Yeah, the
They
guards
said two
burned,
of them
right?
The guards
died.
burned.
Yeah, the
Right.
guards burned or something. Yeah, getting
Yeah.
close to the fire.
Yeah.
Man.
I saw this video
Damn.
that it was trying to kind of like do a replica of kind of like what happened. And think about it, like when they were thrown, it's just your physical body, mentally, I guess, you just start screaming because you know what's coming. And then all of a sudden, they got quiet because they're in the fire. They're in the fire, but they're realizing that the fire cannot consume them because of the fourth person in the fire,
Exactly.
which he is the consuming fire.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which
I love this story.
consumed,
Dude,
consumed the bonds that s- the king at the time chained him with.
Exactly.
He thought that those ropes or whatever they used, which I tend to believe it was ropes because it burned in the fire.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though sometimes society tries to like bound us with this and that, I feel like the fire is necessary.
Absolutely.
Because how do you
That's that proving ground. Yeah.
untie yourself when I'm tied up, my brother's tied up, Angelo's tied up. Nobody can help. Well, we can't help each other. Then there's this miraculous help that comes when you have this relationship with God.
Exactly.
Because they said, even if our God does not, we will still not bow down to you.
Exactly.
Fire can be seen as like a burning, consuming. It can also be looked at as cleansing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What else took out the chains, the ropes, the fire? And maybe that's exactly what we need to get rid of the chains and the ropes in our lives. We need to be under that fire. We need to transition into a new season where we're not comfortable, where we're doing uncomfortable things because it's going to better us, because it's getting us into that direction of, this is where God wants me to be. This is the man I'm called to be. And oh man, that's a great story. How many times have we heard that or talked about it? And for whatever reason, just hearing it again now was like, dude,
Yeah.
that hit.
Fire, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we talked about it before. Take a hammer and try to go at it at a piece of iron to shape it into whatever you want. There's no way. There's no way you're going to mold that or shape that or work with that.
Exactly.
But put it in fire. And I think you said it best. Some of the hardest metals require,
More heat.
So sometimes you got to keep them a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You got to crank up that heat a little bit longer.
And that's exactly like, what we were talking about the other day. I know you're in a season right now. And by the looks of this video won't show that you look like you're in a season. By the knowledge and the value you're adding into this conversation does not look like you are in a season. But I know at the recording of this, you're both in different seasons. And sometimes that right now it may look like there's a little bit of fire in that season, and it's being turned up. But the hardest metals require the most fire, and it's one of those things too where it's like, if you were a weak soldier, God wouldn't give you a hard mission.
Yeah.
He saves that for the badass guys. So if you're watching or listening or however you're taking in this content, just know that even us, as we're doing this and recording this, are in a season.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, like, we have a good time and we laugh and we joke and stuff, but deep inside, like, there's a cleansing happening. And in that, you can still find joy in that.
Absolutely.
It's hard in the beginning when you're really in it and you're getting your nuts kicked in and you're like, dude, how can I find joy in this?
Just over
This
and over.
sucks. Over and over. Over and over. And they're switching people.
They bring in the donkey.
They brought in a donkey. They brought in a donkey, man. Yeah, dude. Like, that's sometimes life feels like that, where it is just so damn heavy.
Yeah.
And the guys that we had this conversation on Wednesday, the guys that end up laughing about it, when you've been through some shit, there's two types of people who will run. When bullets start flying, they'll run or they'll panic, or they'll be like, they're just, you don't want to be around them. And there's a second guy who's laughing in the corner. He's probably like,
Yep.
can't do anything else to this.
Exactly.
It's already a crappy situation.
Yep.
It already is crappy. Why run and hide and cower where you just kind of laugh it off and like, well, this is what we got to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah.